Crowhill here, coming to you from the Royal Oak Tavern in Westerville. Today we drink a cocktail and discuss Trump 2.0. Oh,
good evening.
Hey, good evening, Pigweed. How's it going?
All right. My goodness, what? Look at this beer.
So this is not a beer.
Oh, no.
So Chesterton whipped up a special cocktail for us, the Golden Age.
The Golden Age. Very good. Very good. Well, what's on your mind?
Well, relief is on my mind. Now, as you know, this show really isn't about current headlines, but every once in a while something is so momentous or we just have to talk about it.
Yeah, so I guess what you're saying is it's time for news and booze.
It's time for news and booze. That's why we don't have a beer in front of us. So today the news is the election.
Day one.
Day one of Trump.
Trump 2.0.
And the booze is this fancy cocktail that Chesterton made especially for us.
For the day. The Golden Age.
All right. Here we go.
So, well, it's got
you have to get in there and see what if you can tell. Now, I have a slight advantage. I saw Chesterton making it, so I know what's in here. But you have to. Can you give any guesses there?
It's sweet. That tells me there's some kind of like I don't know, like there's a liqueur of some kind, right?
Well,
there's a Bambooey or something.
Yeah, that's a good guess. So it's the base is Scotch,
right? But
it's pepper infused Scotch. And then some sweet vermouth and some triple sec.
Okay,
there you go. So
interesting.
That's the Golden Age
to
friends. celebrate
the end of the national nightmare.
Yes, the national nightmare is over. We can finally breathe. We can, it's like, wow, this is amazing.
So let's just discuss day one because there was a flurry of activity.
Yes,
even despite the chilly cold. Now there was some talk about security concerns, but I think it was just really darn cold.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, well, I mean, Reagan did that. He moved it indoors because it was cold. And but I think before we get to day one, we need to discuss a little bit about why we feel like we're waking up from a nightmare.
All right. That's very good because when the last news and booze was the day after the first show after the election, and I asked you, are we celebrating the beginning of Trump or the fact that we do not have to suffer through 4 years of Harris,
right?
The Harris administration, and I think I would say that. I'd be 60-40 pro-Trump, whereas in 2016, Trump was such an unknown quantity that I might have been 65%, thank God we don't have President Hillary, and 35, well, we'll see what we get with this guy.
Yeah, right.
While now, I'm more optimistic about it. Yes. I'm pushing Trump over the 50-yard line.
Now we know what we're getting with Trump. And it's kind of remarkable. There's this old concept of thesis, antithesis, synthesis, right? Well, that's not what's going on here. We have thesis, Trump, antithesis, Biden. Never mind, we're going back to the thesis.
yes. Let's see if how much of the damage can we undo? Yes. There's not a new symbiosis of
No, it's almost like thesis, antithesis, doggone it, thesis.
I wonder if when you look at the numbers, I've got some numbers here on executive orders, and we'll get to that later. But does it count if most of your executive orders are just undoing the previous guy's executive order? It's like those cancel out. Like when you calculate the number of executive orders, if most of them are just
yeah, I know. Does that even count?
I
don't know. It's kind of silly. But so let's talk about why we're relieved to not have Biden in the office anymore.
Jeez, boy, all right. So,
that's a long list.
Yes, but let's see if we can zoom through this.
Okay.
So the first thing is, first he comes out and wants to draw the distinction between the Biden administration and the Trump, and how he is committed to a peaceful transfer of power.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Which he completely didn't do.
No.
So what did he talk about? He talked about the rule of law,
right,
the return to norms, and a peaceful transfer of power. None of which he did. So in terms of the rule of law, he defied all tradition and weaponized the Justice Department against his foes, which is completely not the rule of law. Then, in terms of return to norms, he didn't follow. He started doing, like, for example, this whole executive order thing, which we're going to get to later.
The adults are in the room in a return to decency, while men are flashing their fake boobs on the lawn, White House lawn, and porn and gay porn filmed in Congress. Right, so
that's the return to norms.
Yes, and a bunch of military men in skirts.
And the smooth transition, smooth transfer of power. Biden did everything he could in the last few weeks to try to sabotage the Trump administration.
Yes. So, they know what Doge is trying to do. They know that, they're going to attack the deep state, and so he put in whatever he could to secure the jobs of the deep state. Just sabotage the incoming administration.
Yes.
It's not.
So this is not a return to norms. The funny thing is, the left likes to say these words and think that we're going to go, oh, that's nice, those words, even though they're doing something completely opposite to what they're saying.
But they also know that the media is going to repeat the words.
Yes, the media will parrot their talking points. That's right. It's almost like the Democratic National Committee has a list of talking points that they send out to the media people, and that's what they read from. As a matter of fact, it's not like that. It actually is that.
It actually is that. And it's right down to your local affiliate.
Oh, yeah. You've seen those clips where you see all of them reading the same exact thing.
I mean, you can't mix the words up a little bit, so it just doesn't.
Isn't there anybody with some copywriter with some sense that can like jumble it around a little bit? Yeah. All right. So what other things did we see in the Biden administration? I mean, the big one, the thing that people talk about a lot, is the Afghanistan withdrawal, which was
what was interesting, that before the Afghan withdrawal, we were talking about how terrible the presidency has been at the time. And this was probably 2 years in, or maybe it's the first year.
I don't remember.
But at any rate, it's like the 6-month mark or something. And we were like, all right, so far everything they've done is a disaster. The only thing I think that I can agree with on this guy is getting out of Afghanistan. I'm sick of being there. That was a good idea.
Anyway. Exactly. Yeah.
And then I realized, well, of course, I'm not in the briefing room.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, well, certainly it's time for them to take care of their own. I didn't know they were going to collapse in 4 days.
Yes. Yeah. So it
turned out the one thing that I gave them credit for
turned out to be a complete catastrophe. So it was a catastrophe in several ways. It was a catastrophe in allowing everything to get to such a crisis before we pulled out. It was a catastrophe in the way we pulled out, and it was a catastrophe in leaving them all this military equipment.
And continuing to give them money every month.
Yeah, and it's the whole thing.
How could you give them up one penny?
The whole thing.
Why did you blow up every piece of equipment that you couldn't take with you?
Exactly.
And then, first off, forget about the airport. You keep the base open as the last thing that you close.
Yeah.
You get all the Americans out. Once all of the Americans are out, then you start withdrawing. Then you blow up everything that you can't take with you.
Right. Well, but nobody had the sense to do that. And the idiot generals who ran this thing did a completely horrible job, and then they get promotions. That was.
Nobody got fired. Nobody got fired in 4 years.
Yeah.
In any department in the administration.
Right. So how about another topic that Biden was big on was just wokeness. So I broke this up into 4 categories. There's like wokeness in the military, in this stupid commercials and other kinds of horrible things we saw. There's DEI throughout the whole government, transing the kids, and the Title IX changes.
I mean, 0 for 4. It was just terrible.
It's just all bad.
Just so glad to see it. But of course, when we get to the golden age, we realize it wasn't just like, oh well, I guess we're gonna have to live with that now. No, not. How about the pardon? So there's the internet is forever. You remember and so you get all of these clips, Adam Schiff, Joy Reid, Biden himself, going, these preemptive pardons that.
Well, what they were afraid of is when after Trump lost and Biden was president-elect, but Trump was still president, they were afraid that Trump was going to pardon his family and a bunch of other people, which he didn't do. Right. And there were a lot of Democrats, Biden and others, who were on there saying, "Oh, this would be terrible. You don't do that."
It's a terrible precedent. Right. You could, that's not the kind of thing that you do.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then he does it.
In spades. Boy, I mean...
Well, he had to, because it is the Biden crime family.
It is, and that's a whole shoe. And stay tuned, kids, because it's coming.
It is coming.
Yes. So, how does that even work? So, what do you find out? That somebody murdered somebody. In the last 12 years. I
think we're gonna have to refine and define what the pardon power actually means.
Yes.
It can't just be this open-ended.
Anything you've ever done.
Anything you want to do.
It's supposed to be, you feel that somebody was convicted of something unfairly. Right? Mm-hmm. That guy was either given a sentence that was too long, or it was, a biased jury pool or whatever. Yeah. And for that crime, he is not.
I'm absolutely in favor of pardons because sometimes the law is an ass, right? And sometimes somebody actually broke the law, they're actually guilty, and this is actually the correct sentence, legally speaking, but from a moral position, it's just not right. That guy did the right thing, despite what the law said, and that's why you need...
He murdered his daughter's rapist. It's not... I mean, I realize that's against the law, but, his heart was in the right place.
So there are situations where the executive has to step in and say, sorry, that's not what this law was designed for. We're going to... So I'm absolutely in favor of pardons. However, there have to be some restrictions. You can't just say, I'm going to pardon everybody who's left-handed of any crime that they ever commit ever.
Right.
You can't... Come on. So
Joy Reid's asking Adam Schiff, can you think of a situation where a person is preemptively pardoned and did not do anything wrong, who is completely innocent? Schiff, who got pardoned, said, no, I mean, that's the only pardon somebody.
These people they have no principles. They will say one thing one day and something completely the opposite the other day with a straight face and without any... it's just amazing how they can do this kind of thing. All right, so what else have we got for they allowed 15 million. I'm not sure it's 15 million. I don't know if it's not 30 million. They allowed 15 or 30 million unvetted illegals into the country.
Yes.
Which is
deliberately.
It's just crazy.
It was just, everything. So his EOs were undoing Trump's EOs, which had to do with
protecting the border.
And they just flooded in, and then they Border Patrol just became travel agents, and put people in buses and planes wherever they wanted to go.
And you remember the midnight flights where they would bring people in? And they would secretly fly them into cities and just let them go.
Where's the budget for that? I mean, who
was paying for that? Where did that get approved? Just absolutely ridiculous. There was huge inflation.
Right.
Now, this, to some extent, this is Biden, but to another extent, it's Congress, because we just spent crazy amount of money. Lots of government spending is what causes inflation.
So I saw, this was actually a Fox Opinion piece going, look, give the guy some credit. He did some really good things. Biden. And I was like, all right.
Name two.
Bring it on. But it had to do with passing massive spending bills. Who can't do that? Who can't spend other people's money that you don't have? Wow, that's really courageous that you spent trillions of dollars that we don't have.
Why are they saying that that's a good thing? This massive spending.
Well, because you've seen all the infrastructure that's been. And you've seen
all those new bridges and roads and things all over the place.
And this is the thing. You're not going to realize if you listen to Coringe. You'll realize it'll be years before you realize the greatness of Joe Biden. Okay. So once you see these glistening bridges all over the place, you're gonna be like, Joe did that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's gonna be such a wow moment. And remember, they're gonna bring broadband to all those people who don't have it.
Oh, sure. So I think there's like 5 people. In the country
that was 0 people. Then there's 5. Then there was. Who knows $5 billion to build 500,000 EV charging stations?
Well, you know,
and
how
that was 8.
8 people?
Yeah, 8. No, 8 charging stations in 4 years.
Yeah.
Thank you, there, Buddha Judge.
But the reason governments pass big spending bills to do something. And here's what they do. They come up with something that everybody agrees, yeah, that's probably a good idea. It's probably a good idea to extend internet service to people who don't have it. You know, kind of like the Rural Electrification Act. That was something that we did. Right. So they say, okay, fine, we'll extend internet service. So they pass this bill where they have all this money to spend. And then what they do is they give that money to their political cronies, yes, and nothing ever gets done.
No. So what you do is you take half that money, you give it to Starlink, yeah, and everybody gets internet service.
Right.
You take half that money and you ask Tesla to build the EV stations, and they'd have been built by now.
Yes.
All right, let's get to we got to get to the golden age here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So let's just run through what are those other terrible things.
Okay. So I mean, irresolute support for Israel. I mean, after Israel was attacked in this horrible, brutal way, the Biden administration response should have been good hunting.
Yeah. Although it was better than I thought. It was. You know, yes, they could have gone French, gone all Frenchy. Mm-hmm. And try to cut off.
But they weren't as supportive.
No, they were tiptoeing because they were hoping that they could win Michigan, right, with enough support for terrorist supporters.
Yes. And then the other thing is just the mental decline of Joe Biden. He was mentally incompetent
the whole time.
His entire presidency.
The whole. I mean, why do you this eating ice cream in the basement thing, 4 years ago was never about COVID.
No,
it was we don't want him talking to anybody.
We can't put him out in the public because he can't say a sentence. He can't respond rationally.
When everybody acted like, whoa, we never realized it was this bad until the debate. Yeah, 3 years into it. Where the hell were you?
Exactly. Weren't you watching? Weren't you listening? Didn't you have any clue what was going on? This guy was mentally deficient 4 years ago.
All of you reporters who have your inside sources, what were these inside sources telling you?
I know.
Right? Huh? He's the smartest guy in the room.
No. Everybody in Washington knew that Joe Biden was toast.
I've never read a White House tell-all book, but I might have to after this. I mean, what was going on in there?
Yeah. And that speaks to a lot of things. It speaks, one thing, to Joe Biden's lack of decency. That he had to know that he was not on top of this game.
What about Lady Macbeth?
Yes, it had to speak to Jill Biden and also to VP Harris. Both of them went along with this charade, but it also makes you wonder who is actually running the government.
Well, yes. Well, you want to get to the Mike Johnson episode?
Sure, yeah.
So this seems like the time. He says, I went to talk to Joe, and it was not good. Mm-hmm. I specifically asking about cutting off the sale of liquid gas to Europe. And so he goes in there, just like a private meeting with Joe, and the private meeting consists of Pelosi, Schumer, and the head of the CIA.
Because you can't expect Joe to do it by himself. Right. And why is the head of the CIA there?
Wait a minute. Okay, I can get the other like aides and whatever, right, who are used to just guiding Joe around, telling him where the bathroom is.
Right.
But in this case, Joe says, "Can I speak to the guy alone?" And everybody's looking at each other like,
"Are you kidding? We can't trust that guy alone."
And then he's like, "No, seriously." And no matter what condition he is in,
he is the president.
He is the president, and so they get together alone. And Mike Johnson's just like, why'd you do this? You're making Europe dependent on Russia, and you're killing our. I didn't sign that.
No, I didn't do that. What are you talking about? I was eating ice cream. Yeah, he didn't know what he was doing.
He didn't. So,
which raises a big question: Can any of his executive orders, any of the things he did? Can we now go back and say he was mentally incompetent when he did these things?
Yeah. If he doesn't know, if 25-year-old girl aides are putting legislation in front of him and say, Joe, you need to sign here, and he's doing it, are those things valid?
Right, yeah. That's a big question. Okay, so Ukraine, this alleged unconditional will stick with you forever support for Ukraine, which ties directly into the next one on my list, which is the Biden crime family, because Ukraine was one of the places that was paying the Biden family all kinds of money. Yeah. So I have a suspicion, and I don't know if this will ever turn out to be true, but this is my suspicion, that the reason Biden supported Ukraine so much was to hide the various corruption.
There's so much dirt.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the place is awash in Biden dirt.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, and also it's just one of those. It's a great place to launder money.
Yeah,
I mean, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of money. A lot of
a lot of the money. Does this sound right? So you give money to Zelensky, and Zelensky gives money back to the leaders that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, to Congress people. Who voted for it.
So yes, but there was all kinds of laundering going on. There was also a lot of the oligarchs in Ukraine got a lot of this money. Like, we think that we're giving money to the guys who are fighting on the front line to stop Russian aggression. Okay, that's the image that we're trying to project. What's actually going on is we're paying off a bunch of political leaders in Ukraine who are now rich guys.
And also, aren't we just funding the government?
Yeah.
Just like your standard bureaucrat.
Yeah.
They don't have the money for it because they're spending hopefully they're spending the money on the war and yachts. And then so the money that we send just keeps the government functioning.
Yeah. All right, well, let's just run through some more. Yeah. The weaponization of justice.
Yep.
Prosecuting your political opponent. Right. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. They prosecuted pro-lifers.
Right.
That was terrible. Inflation was high. This thing, Biden, at the end of his administration, he just says, the Equal Rights Amendment is now the law of the land.
I love that one.
Yeah.
That's a good
He's just going to declare that, even though nothing...
So that's, which is another example of his mental state.
So Biden is a disaster.
So the show is supposed to be about day one of Trump 2.2.
Okay, let's get there.
I just couldn't help but saying, don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Yes. Goodbye.
You senile old fool.
Yes. And he's always been a fool. It's just that now he's a senile old fool.
Yes. And kind of a mean dummy, wrong on all the issues.
Everybody who works in old folks' homes will tell you that senile old men become angry. That's just the way it is. Yeah. I mean, that's just the way it is. And Biden showed that continuously in the last days of his presidency.
Yes, barking at reporters who are asking simple questions.
Yeah, come on. It was all right. So, but now light has dawned, and now we have a new administration.
Now, what's different here? Although I have this as the last thing I'm going to say, I'm going to turn it around and say it the first thing I'm going to say.
Yeah,
is that the first time the guy's not a politician. He doesn't have a team in place.
Right.
Right? But
first time around Trump, because I'm not sure he even thought he was going to win.
Obama, brings in all his Chicago boys and everything's kind of set up, and he's like, he doesn't know who to trust. He doesn't know.
Right.
That plus you had.
And he got bad advice from a lot of people.
Bad advice, and then you had this combination of. You had COVID.
Yeah.
You had, 4 years of Russia.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There were so many things.
So there was the deep state was opposing him every place. The media was completely against him. You had the entire intelligence service against him, and he really kind of didn't know how mean and rotten things were in Washington.
You had Flovid riots.
Yeah, right.
And
what we see now, Trump now, he's like, the burned hand shies away from the fire. He knows what's going on.
Yeah.
He realizes.
He knows where they're coming at me.
Yeah.
He's already fought off lawfare for 4 years.
Yeah. So he has been through it, and now he's coming out saying, okay, you're not fooling me this time.
Yeah.
And I've got my ducks in a row. I've had 4 years to prepare this. I've got legal advisors putting things. And so now he comes in. He's guns blaring
with a loyal team.
Yes, with a loyal team that's actually going to enforce his agenda.
Everybody's on the same page because before you had so many. The Republican Party was half MAGA, half Trump, never Trumpers.
Yeah. So what happened the first time around was you had the establishment Republicans saying, "Oh my gosh, we got to deal with this crazy Donald Trump. Yeah. Let's stick some people in his administration that will guide him the right way, the way we want things to go.
We can rein him in."
Yeah. So you had the Mitch McConnells and the various other kinds of rhinos in the Republican Party who were kind of trying to guide Trump and rein him in, as you say, control him. It's not that way now. Yeah. He's learned all those tricks, and he said, "No, I've got my people in here."
So before he got to the Oval Office, did he start signing EOs in the Capital One Arena?
I'm not sure he was ever in the Capital One Arena.
Oh, really? Oh, no, they were in the rotunda and it was being broadcast.
Yes, yeah. But he was signing. I think he was signing some of them. Yeah, he was signing some of them there, and I think he was like throwing the pens out to the crowd.
That's good.
These big Sharpies.
All right. So how about right at the top of the list? Kind of odd that this would be day one. Is reinstating the name Mount McKinley and renaming the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America.
So what I like about that is it's basically saying quit apologizing. You know, like Obama when he was elected went on this several-month apology tour, saying how terrible America is, and
what can we do to make
sorry.
Up?
How can we're not going to be this way anymore. Trump is like, no, we're the greatest country in the world. Yeah. Quit apologizing. This is our land. We're going to call it Mount McKinley.
And that because when America bought the land, that's what we named it.
Yeah.
Not not because some traditional tribe once called it.
Yeah,
whatever.
Exactly.
And the Gulf of America is just... How about this idea, though? Is this even possible that you could say that you could look at all of, like, the drilling restrictions in the Gulf of Mexico, rename it, and go, these restrictions don't apply anymore because we're still...
I'm not sure you can do that.
I don't think you can, but I love the idea.
I love the idea. It's pretty funny. But I think basically what he's saying is we're going to restore America. The thing that's different about Trump 2.0 is he's embraced things like the United States is not going to be. We're not going to be apologizing anymore. We're going to be forward looking. We're going to go out into the world. We're going to maybe take Greenland. Maybe we're going to put people on Mars. We're going to be expansive once again.
It's a manifest destiny attitude.
It's a new attitude about America. It's restoring this idea, which we haven't had since Ronald Reagan. And Ronald Reagan wasn't even as good at it as Trump is being now. This idea of America's a shining city on a hill.
Yes.
We don't need to be going around apologizing. We need to be saying, no, we're pushing forward.
Yes. We are still setting the example for the rest of the world. And, well, I'm going to save some of the immigration stuff.
Yeah.
Because we have too much to do. I think we're going to have a 2.0 Part 2.
Yes.
But,
yes. Now, I do want to say one thing, just like in general, about these executive orders. I don't like executive orders.
Yeah.
Just from a political perspective, Congress should be passing laws. The president should not be making all these things happen by executive orders. However, Congress is dysfunctional. They haven't passed any serious legislation in a long time. They're basically useless. So what we have is an imperial presidency that does all this stuff, and then Congress goes, and I don't like it. I would much rather have regular order. However, having said all that, this is where we are.
This is where we are. And like I said, executive orders to just cancel previous executive orders almost don't even count when you're doing the numbers. Here, let me give you some numbers. This is from Ronald Reagan to now. In a single term, we're talking somewhere around 200-ish, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Franklin Roosevelt issued 3,721. Well, he was there for 12 years.
Yeah, yeah. But he was also a radical in terms of trying to change everything.
And yes, he just thought that Congress was just in the way.
Yeah.
And you know what? I was raised with so much Franklin Roosevelt the Saint. I was probably 40 years old before I
you realized he was really a jerk.
Well, I mean, just before I heard the other side, before people going,
right.
Wait a minute, you guys have been raised on this how he saved America.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you what really happened, and you realize that the brutal overreach of just telling a tailor how many shirts he can make, and you know what I mean. That he probably extended the Depression rather than solved it.
Yes.
That World War II did not the WPA or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, whatever his numbers are. So what do we have here? Joe Biden was 162.
Trump has issued like 100 in the first couple of days.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Now, not that I like it. I don't like these executive orders, but I like what he's doing. I don't like the process. I really wish that this is the kind of thing that Congress would do. However, in terms of what he's actually doing,
all right, let's run down. So we don't need to analyze each of these things. Let's just give the things a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yeah.
How about revoking the security clearances of people involved and John Bolton.
Yes.
I should put the man's name in the...
Yeah. So, first of all, the intelligence departments were ridiculous in that whole, we've decided that the Hunter Biden laptop thing, which we haven't even looked at, by the way, shows all the signs of Russian disinformation. That was just a complete lie.
Yeah.
That was
is that what this one is? Does it refer to those?
Yeah, that was
51.
That was deep state
you don't get. Does a security clearance last for life? Is it a lifetime appointment?
I don't know.
I mean, it shouldn't be, right?
No,
I mean, you can always do something along the way, and in his mind, you did something along the way, and this is it.
And then along with that, which I'm really glad, is that he's restoring to active duty anybody in the military who was dismissed because they refused to get the COVID shot.
Boom.
Yeah, that's going to be great for two reasons. One, most of the people who were dismissed because they wouldn't get the COVID shot were conservatives. So we're going to get more conservatives back into the military. So that's a good thing. But the second reason is we are way under in the military right now because nobody wants to serve in a military that reports to Joe Biden and his freak
you walk through the door and before they ask you how many push-ups they can do, they ask you how many pronouns, which your pronouns are.
Exactly. And so you have these weirdos running the military, and nobody wants to sign up for that. So I predict we're going to have a huge surge.
Not only are you getting the conservatives back, forget if they're conservative or not, they are qualified.
Yes.
I mean, these are people these are Navy SEALs. These people who already know how to do the job.
Somebody who's been a master sergeant for 10 years and knows
drill
what
sergeant
to do.
Who just didn't want to get drilled in the arm.
That's right. Yeah. So
like that.
we're going to get them back, which is good. But also, I think we're going to have a surge in recruitment because people are going to say, I'm willing to serve in this military. I wasn't willing to serve in
I heard
Joe
somebody
Biden
say,
military.
I want the writer and director who did Top Gun to create the next ad for
exactly
right. Not Heather
show.
Has two mommies.
Where is it on the table here? We did a show a little while ago about the difference between U.S. Army ads and like Russia and China ads.
Russia and China is all like the China one was just all about discipline and kicking ass. The Russia one kind of had a badass guy who didn't have any direction in his life.
Yeah.
And then doom.
Yeah. And now he's in the military and he knows what he's about.
Yes.
But the American ones were like,
I can find
I can be a weirdo and still be in the military.
I want a military where I get to find out who I am.
Yeah, and if I want to pretend that I'm a fox, that's okay. It's so sick. It's so incredibly sick.
Yes.
All right, so what else do we have on this list here? Restoring accountability for career senior executives. Promoting beautiful federal civic architecture.
That's kind of weird, although I'm pro that.
Yes.
So much bad architecture, but yes. But, there's not been any great architecture.
So I want to talk a little bit about this, delaying the TikTok ban for 75 days.
Yeah, let's do this, because I don't really
This
know
is one of the ones that
TikTok.
I'm not sure I agree with. So, okay, here's the deal. TikTok is the social media platform that's incredibly popular, is apparently very good at showing you the things that you like. The algorithms are very good. It can show you stuff that you like, and it's very entertaining, and people get addicted to it, and they spend hours and hours and hours on this thing. Okay, which, is that good or bad? That's another question. But the bad side of it is all the information they're gathering about you is being backdoored into the Chinese Communist government. Okay? Because TikTok is owned...
But what is the fear that they're going to know about the sites that you find interesting?
Well, they're going to know all kinds of things about you. They're going to know where you are at different times of the day. They're going to know, yes, what kinds of things you're interested in. That's true. They might be able to blackmail you or something like that, but they just know details about your life because, you're on your phone at this time during the day. You do these things. You travel in these places because it has location information. It might have other information about, it might even, supposedly, when you install the TikTok app on your phone, it gathers other information from your phone that then gets fed. And so, but the bottom line is this information is being fed back to the communist Chinese. Now, that's obviously horrible. We don't want that. So the Congress said, this is so bad. It's a national security threat. We can't have this going on with TikTok. So they have to divest from the Communist Chinese Party.
What are the defenders saying? Which include like a Rand Paul, like a libertarian.
So what the defenders would say is, look, you're worried about TikTok. Every other app is doing the same thing, collecting all this information. Right. And my reaction is, yes, it is, but it's not feeding it directly into the Communist Party. Okay, so they're saying you're going to end up playing whack-a-mole. Like you knock down TikTok, but then there's this other app that's giving information to the Chinese. Now you have to go after that one. Well, okay, I agree, but the fact that you can't kill all the enemies doesn't mean you don't kill one enemy, right?
I know. This is what I couldn't figure out is people sort of preemptively going, oh, well, then we'll jump over to this app. Well, yeah. Also Chinese owned.
I know.
I was like,
are you intentionally trying to...
Can nobody create the same thing? It's like
American?
What is it? Even like YouTube, what? It's just storage space. Mm-hmm. I mean, somebody else can't create another place for people to put their videos on, right, if YouTube were to die. So,
well, apparently the thing with TikTok is the algorithm that figures out what... Anyway, so I am in favor of the TikTok ban. I don't understand why it took so long to get it done, but Trump is delaying it for 75 days, and I'm not a huge fan of that. However, I think Trump's attitude is, I'm going to see if I can make a better deal. So yeah. He thinks he can make a better deal in those 75 days.
Look, I bought you some time. How about this?
Yeah.
Well, you'll sell 51% to this group.
Yeah. But I'm astonished at the defenders of TikTok when I've seen a lot of conversations about this on LinkedIn and other places. The people who defend TikTok, they don't even say a word about the fact that all this information is going to the Communist Chinese Party. Don't you realize that the Communist Chinese are our number one adversary in the world today?
Probably don't have your best interest at heart.
Right.
Just saying.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm not a huge fan of that one, but we'll see what happens in the next 75 days. What else we got on here?
What about the World Health Organization?
Yeah.
And I'm going to clump these two together. And the Paris Accord.
Well, people are saying the World Health Organization is basically just being controlled by China. So why are we allowing that?
What I saw was China has three... I don't know, what does China have? Yes, has 3 times our population, mm-hmm, and pays 90% less. And so what is the WHO show? Yes, this is the Trump's... The whole world economic picture is everybody's ripping us off. We're sick of it, and it's not going to stop anymore. You get a tariff. You get a tariff. You get a tariff.
Yes, exactly. And that the attitude of the United States since World War II has been
we'll pay for it.
We'll pay for it. We'll pay for your defense, Europe. That's fine. We'll pay for everything. We'll pay for the UN. We'll have the UN on our soil. Basically, the United States has been ripped off for my entire life and from before I was born.
My company prints for the German Marshall Fund.
Uh-huh.
Are we still rebuilding Europe? That's what I want to know. Like, these things never go away.
Yes. And we're just spending this money for everybody else, but not... So why is it...
We're paying way too much for NATO. We're paying and yes, so this is it. Everybody... This is the whole take him seriously, but not literally, but not seriously.
Yeah.
And he says, you know what? We're getting out of NATO. You guys can pay for it yourselves.
Right.
And then so you see all the hair's set on fire. And it's like, this is how Trump makes
this is how he negotiates. Exactly.
This is the art of the deal.
Yes. This is when you're talking to the car salesman and you say, never mind, I don't want that car.
Yeah, right. So you're about to sign the check, you tear it up, you throw it in, and you walk out the door. You don't want to walk out the door.
I want that car.
You want $1,000 off.
Exactly.
You just want the undercoating in the floor mats.
Yes, exactly. So I think, yes, Trump, he is a guy who wants to make deals. I mean, we talked about this once before. When the guy was talking about investing $1 billion in America, he says, how about 2? Yeah, or 10 or
no, it was 100. He said, what about 200? And then the meeting, I'll talk about this next time. The same guy, the Starlink,
yeah.
He's the meeting what you're talking about. It was a 100. He said, "What about 2?" The Starlink meeting was $500 billion. The man came back from SoftBank to Taiwan, I think.
Wow. So basically, we're having all these executive orders that are restoring America to basically undoing what Biden has done, but also doing what Trump promised he would do in the campaign. And this is what he campaigned on. It's not a big secret. He said he was going to do these things, and now he's doing them. And I'm a big fan.
Well, there's more to say about this, but I say you said, what is he doing? He's ushering in a golden age.
A golden age, and let's finish off this golden age. Thank you, Chesterton.
Thank you, Chesterton.
Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.